This is the first review for the exam in the second trimester of Algebra 2. So problem 1 wants the value of x if k is -2. So this is just substitute in. So how about multiplying to eliminate denominators? So multiplying both sides by 3 and then adding 1. So that's -6. Add 1, and you get -5. So that is A. Problem 2, which of the following is an even degree polynomial with a negative leading coefficient? So just take your handy packets of notes here. So this is what we're looking at right here. So negative infinity left end, negative infinity right end. So that is B that we're looking at. Number 3, select the rational expression that is a simplified version of this. So you're going to have to go through and factor all of this and then cancel. So the factoring of x squared minus 16 is x plus 4 times x minus 4. The factoring of x squared minus 4x plus 4 is x minus 2 times x minus 2. And then the factoring of x squared plus 6x plus 8 is x plus 2 times x plus 4. So all that factoring has to be done first. Now you can cancel. We can do one of these with one of these. We can do this one with this one. And so we have x minus 4 in the numerator. Well, that game is over. I can see that it's going to be D. Number 4, which of the following has x-intercepts at only 2, 0, and 1/4, 0? So this is x minus 2 as a factor. This is 4x minus 1 as a factor, raised to some power. Let me zoom out a little bit here. Okay, so that's going to be A. So kind of going backwards from the x-intercepts to factoring. Problem 5, what value of n satisfies the rational equation? So you're going to multiply both sides by 2n on both sides, and then do your algebra. So I'm going to get the 14n, so -18n equals -2. Subtract 14n, subtract 2, then divide both sides by -18. 1/9. Find the tangent. So this is adjacent, hypotenuse, opposite. 12/9 is 12/9, which is 4/3. Don't know why I drew a blank there for a moment. Divide each side, top and bottom, by 3. 4/3, which is D. Problem 7, for which x values is that not defined? So what we have to do is we have to find the zeros of the bottom, and what you can do on the math portal site, but you need to know that that's what you have to do. You have to find the zeros. So those occur at 0, -2, and -4. So what you would find there are our vertical asymptotes, excuse me. So whatever puts a 0 in the denominator is a vertical asymptote. Okay, so -4, -2, and 0. A, B, and C. 1 is not 1. Which of the following is equivalent to this equation? So this is a bit of work. So there's just one answer, and when we get to it, that'll be nice. What we need to do is solve for y. That's what this big deal is here. So we can clearly see that it's not going to be C. We multiply the 2/3 in, yeah, it gives 2/3 x, but plus 2/3 minus 4 will not give the same as minus 4. D is out too if you multiplied everything by 3. So we'll start from the beginning and just solve for y. Minus 4, so subtract the 2x over, now divide everything by 3. So negative 2/3 x minus 4/3, it's not going to be a either. So I'm guessing it's going to be b. Okay, so 3y equals negative 4x plus, I'm going to multiply the 6 through. So you can do the simplifying. You can see here that this will end up, so this is 2x minus 12. I'll write that down right here. Now we want to divide by 3. So 2/3 x minus 4. So it is b. That works. Okay, which of the following could be the graph of f of x? So p of x is the unknown polynomial. So we got to have zeros. So this, when we factor the bottom, let me write this over here. This is the factoring of the bottom. So at 3 and 4, we have a kind of, we have discontinuities at 3 and 4. So this graph shows a vertical asymptote at 3, and it shows a point discontinuity or hole in the graph at 4. So it has to be B. All the other graphs have discontinuities, okay, vertical asymptotes or point discontinuities in other places. Okay, so it has to be B on that. Problem 10. So what you want to do is to take the portion that each completes, which is the reciprocal with t, and then one with 4 hours. So this is the portion that Shauna does. This is the portion that Dan does, which is more because he's working faster. It takes him less time. And then we're going to solve for t. So that's the time to do one driveway. This stands for one driveway here. And then we're going to multiply that by 2. Okay, so multiply left to right. I'm going to say by 12, something that the 6 and the 4 go into. So 2t plus 3t equals 12. So 5t is 12 and t is 2.4. So now we got to multiply that by 2 because you're doing 2 driveways, so 4.8 hours. Which of the following is the factor form? So I know at 2, I've got an x minus 2 with an even multiplicity. So the only one that, so it's got to be A or D. Okay, negative 3 and then 5. I'm saying it's got to be D. The problem with A is that negative 5 has to be the x-intercept. So you have to understand, you know, this is an even multiplicity here, and the fact that this is an x plus 3. We got to see an x plus 3. We got to see an x minus 2 and an x minus 5. Okay, with an even multiplicity in the x minus 2. Which of the following forms a right triangle? So you're going through these and you're testing the sum of the 2 smaller ones squared has to equal the largest one squared. So they may not all be stated in order. I see that they are, which is good. But this is the one that works. 56.25 equals 56.25. So kind of like, you know, tracing the right angle, the legs are the 2 smallest sides. The sum of those squared has to equal the hypotenuse squared. Okay, 13. What is the value of 4b over a? So this is where you want to take the reciprocal. Okay, and so 4b over a is multiplying both sides by 4. So 4b over a is 2. Okay, 14. What's the value of k in the second function? All right, so what we need to do, this is a little bit of work. We need to vertical stretch by a factor of 2. So what that's saying, I'll come over in here, put the, that's saying that y goes to 2y. So 1/2 y has to go in for y. So we're starting with this is y up here. So y equals 2. When we do this, y would solve for y 2 times absolute x. So I'm going to try to fit that in. Reflection about x. So I'm just going to write that over here, about x. So y gets replaced with negative y, and then we got to solve for y. So that would be y equals negative 2. So at this point, we have the answer because that's what the value in front is. Now, if you want to continue for C, so shift 2 units right and 1 unit down. So here's 1 unit down, here's 2 units to the right. So you have to replace with the opposites. And then simplify and solve for y. So if we solve for y, 1 gets subtracted over. So that matches that, and you can tell that k is negative 2. Okay, solve for r. So s equals 4 pi r squared. Now I want to solve for r. So the first thing I do is divide by 4 pi to get the r squared alone. And then we need to take it to the 1/2 power, which is the same as the square root. That you need to know. So s over 4 pi, square root of that. Okay, which of the following is an x-intercept in this polynomial? So you got to solve them equal to 0. So those are your x-intercepts. Okay, so it is D. Make sure you understand that's a y-intercept, 0, 4, 0, negative 1. Okay, estimate the height of the tree to the nearest whole foot. So you got tangent of 40 equals x over 75. So opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, and then do the cross product and you'll have it, and it's about 63 feet. Okay, 18, there are 2 solutions to this equation. What are the sum of the 2 solutions? So because this is the exam, one thing you can do is you are welcome to use a calculator table to look up solutions. So you'd have to enter x over x minus 4 plus 6 over x minus 3 minus 16 over x minus 3 times x minus 4 in, find the 2 places where y is 0, and they are negative 8 and 5, and then add those together. That's a quick way, and that's a nice way. So again, just using a graphing calculator, enter it in, look on the table. This is true for any equation. Other than that, you have to get a common denominator, which is going to be x minus 4 times x minus 3 left to right. This one's good. This one was missing the x minus 4. This one was missing the x minus 3. And then we're going to collect everything in the top and pull it all to the left. And that, you set that equal to 0 plus 6x minus 24. Then I'm going to subtract the 16 over. So taking all the numerators and pulling everything to one side, ignoring the denominator, setting this equal to 0 will give you, and so you solve that quadratic, you get negative 8 and 5. and then you add those two together and you get 3. So x plus 8 times x minus 5 is the factoring there. Either way. Okay, 19, what is the exact distance between the points 4, 2 and 7, 4 on the coordinate plane? You need to do the Pythagorean theorem here. Okay, so here's 4, 2, and then 7, 4 is right here. So that's what we're trying to test you with here. So 3 and 2 are the sides in that, and so this is the distance. So 3 squared plus 2 squared equals d squared. So 13 is d squared, so square root of 13, or 13 to the 1/2 power, either way. And which of the following triangles is the indicated angle closest to 50 degrees? So you need to go through each of these and do the appropriate inverse calculation. So this one would be a cosine inverse of 52 over 56. This one would be a tangent inverse of 76 over 57. And this one would be a cosine inverse of 26 over 45. So yup, you got to do the whole adjacent, hypotenuse, opposite thing. Okay, adjacent, hypotenuse, opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse, opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse, opposite. And so that'll tell you which one to use, and C is the closest. Okay, 21. Compared to the graph of f of x equals x to the third, and then g of x is x plus 3 squared. So this is really like this. X cubed, I meant to say. X cubed and then x plus 3 cubed minus 2. So you started like this. So it looks like 3 to the left and 2 down. 2 down and 3 to the left, because remember, it's the opposite that you put in. What value of k satisfies that equation? So again, here we're looking at, actually I'll show the table this time. I think the best way is just to get on the calculator table. Instead of getting all that common denominator stuff, I'm going to show it this way. So you can use your fraction input here over x minus 8. Now we got to subtract over everything on one side. So that's going to be plus, and then 4 over x minus 4 minus 1. So we had to get those two on the right over to the left. 2x minus 16 over x minus 8 plus 4 over x minus 4 minus 1. And now I'm going to go to the table. I see that 0 works. Okay, so we just want, you know, where y is 0. And so the other ones, how could you test these other two? Just start your table there. So negative 2/3, and then if that is, then we're going to see a 0, and it's not 0. And then try 2/3. Oops, I can do that. Then try 2/3. Start your table there. And that doesn't give 0. Just 0 gives 0. Okay, so a lot of times I like table work. You know, you could take a look at the graph to see where is this sucker crossing the x-axis. That's where it is at 0. That's a solution. Solutions are x-intercepts, except for imaginaries of dealing with quadratics. That's different. But real solutions are x-intercepts. And say it that way, I guess will make more sense. You can do the work too. That involves getting a common denominator, and then you have all these terms out in the second review. I'll probably do it out in its entirety. Okay, so so you normally walk on the sidewalk from home to school in about 25 minutes. If you walk straight from your house to school at normal speed, about how many minutes would you save? Okay, so the first thing we have to do from this diagram here is to figure out what this as the bird flies distance is using the Pythagorean theorem, and that's going to be 1.3. So you're going to do 0.5 squared plus 1.2 squared equals d squared, and then 1.3 would equal d when you figure that out. So what this problem wants to know, so when you add all of this up, or just these two sides, so you're comparing this distance in time to a straight line distance in time. So when you add the 0.5 and the 1.2, that's 1.7 miles, and that took you 25 minutes. Compared to 1.3 miles, how many minutes does that take? Just walking as the bird, as the crow flies. So this is a Pythagorean theorem question and a proportion question. So when you solve this proportion, you get 19 minutes about. So you do the cross product, 1.7 x equals 1.3 times 25, 32.5. And then you solve that by dividing both sides by 1.7. So 19 minutes. So how much time did you save? You look at that compared to that, 6 minutes. Okay, problem 24. Which of the following is the graph of 2 times x plus 3 minus 4? Square root of x plus 3 minus 4. So I see a starting point of -3, -4. And which one has that starting point? And that is D. So this is in your notes. It's stuff that we went over towards the end. Let me see if I can find the page. Let me see. I think this is it. Yeah, so right here is what we're getting at. So to find the max and min point, take g of x equal to 0, and that's what's under. So you x plus 3 equals 0, you get -3. So -3, -4 is like your min point where this thing starts at. So that's what you always want to look at to determine the graph. You can also graph it on a graphing calculator and you would see. 25, determine the location of the vertical asymptote of this function. So again, you want to look at the factoring. So -1 and -2. And actually the -2 is going to be a point discontinuity in this one. So just -1. Determine the degree of this function. So how about a highest power? And that is 3. What is this equation? So you'll see the -4, 0. So you know you got to have a square root of x plus 4 plus 0. Okay, and so that's got to be C. And you can graph it and look at it, and that will also help. Find the length of the missing side. So whatever you want to call that, 80. And then the square root of 80. And so, all right, they break this down, square root of 80. So you can think of the largest perfect square that will divide in there, and that's 16. You could also decimalize it and then just check it back. Oops, I'm off the viewer here. So there's the breakdown, but you can decimalize the square root of 80 and compare it with each of those, and you will get 4 times the square root of 5, but 16 is that largest perfect square. So when you're reducing square roots, you're looking at this list that goes on and on of perfect squares. Usually you don't have to get much above 36, but 16 will go in and you break it apart. 16 times 5 is 80. But just decimalize it. That's another way of easily getting to the solution. Okay, so just a few more here. Problem 29. Which of the following is an odd degree with a negative leading coefficient? Okay, so I got to have an odd degree and a negative leading, and that would be B. Rearrange the equation. Okay, so we want to solve for F. So the first thing I would do is multiply by 9, or you can multiply the 5/9 in. I'm going to multiply by 9 on step 1. So 9C equals 5 times F minus 32. And we want to get at F. So now we're going to multiply to eliminate parentheses. Add 160 over, and then divide by 5. So F is 9C over 5, 9/5 C, plus 160 over 5, 32. So, A. Okay, so now our operator on a cruiser detects a submarine at 500 meters and an angle of depression of 37. Approximately how deep? So we want this X here. So that's looking like sine. So sine 37 over 1 is X over 500, opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, so cross product, sine 37, which is about 301 meters. Okay, so Pythagorean theorem here, where the sides of the TV are the sides that make the right angle, over and over and over. But so the diagonal is 42. So it's X squared plus 22 squared is 42 squared. Okay, the width is the other side that makes the right angle. Okay, so when you get this, so 42 squared minus 22 squared, and then we square root that, 35.8 inches. And then you want to divide that by 12 to get it in terms of feet. Yeah, okay, which is, yeah, I don't like that, but 35.8 over 12, it's about 3 feet. All right, the graph is shifted 4 units, down 4 units, so I'm going to automatically do this and write 2 units. Oh, okay, so right is X minus 2. Replace X with X minus 2. Down 4, so Y minus 4, X plus 2. So you got to replace the opposite. Remember we did those tables. So Y plus 4, X minus 2. So we're going to have X minus 1 squared minus 4 when you simplify on the right. Okay, and then subtract 4 over. All right, so what are the coordinates of the vertex after this transformation? So you see it right there, 1, negative 4. HK, X minus H squared plus K. You could just take the, I guess you could take the so negative 1, 0 is, and then you shift it down. So drop the Y down 4 and then add 2 to the X. You could have done that also from this vertex there. Length of side BC. Okay, so how about a cosine? So cosine is 70 over 1 is adjacent X over 5. So X is 5 times cosine of 70. And oh, that's our answer choice. I remembered that saying that sometimes your answer choices can be these trig expressions. All right, one more, I believe. Which of the following polynomial has exactly 3 real solutions? So if you zoom into these, there's 4 each on these ends. It's really hard to see, but they do cut in. And so the 3 would be B. So 2, 3, 4, and 4. And that is the conclusion of the solutions to the first exam review for the final exam in the second trimester.